This video is sponsored by World of Warships. During its last tour in the Vietnam War, the Belknap-class guided missile cruiser USS Biddle scored what is believed to be the last enemy aircraft shootdown with hand-loaded guns in the U.S. Navy's history. USS Biddle was the last ship of its class and was launched in 1965, just in time to begin operations at the outbreak of the Vietnam War in early 1967. Displaying 8,000 tons and manned by 27 officers and 450 men, Biddle was built to take down enemy aircraft approaching American formations at sea. On July 19, 1972, the cruiser was monitoring an American combat air patrol when the duty watch officers spotted 5 incoming MiGs. Missiles were fired, and the 2 remaining fighters received the brunt of the ship's 3- and 5-inch guns. Moreover, Biddle also went down in history as one of the few American warships that successfully pranked the Soviet Navy at the height of the Cold War. The story of enemy MiG-15s flying into a buzzsaw of American 3- and 5-inchers marked an epic end to a very peculiar period of naval warfare. Now dive further back into historic naval action, when the guns mattered even more, with World of Warships Legends, a multiplayer online game featuring over 200 ships from World War I and World War II. Command, customize, and arm some of the most iconic warships from history. Use your knowledge to perfect your own naval strategy in stunningly realistic battles. Play with friends, form your own teams, and coordinate tactics against others, or engage in intense combat with AI featuring advanced physics that will put your skills as a commander to a real-life test. Click on the link in the description below and use our discount code 2021 WOWSL Summer to receive 7 days of premium play, the premium Tier 2 US Navy destroyer Smith, the premium Tier 2 Soviet cruiser Aurora, 20 eco-tile camouflage credits, and 20 rare boosters. It is free and fair to play. Join the World of Warships Legends party on Xbox or PlayStation, while the summer is still hot and the action is too. Support Dark Seas and click on the link in the description below. New defense. World War I proved the importance of naval warfare and its influence on land and sea operations. Maritime blockades became an essential tool for starving a country and destroying its economy if it relied heavily on foreign trade or goods, generally delivered through the sea. The German Empire proved to be incapable of fighting the numerically superior British Royal Navy and was steadily choked at sea by the British blockade that neutralized German operations at sea. Although the only large-scale sea encounter of the conflict was the Battle of Jutland, naval warfare, just like armored and aerial encounters in the later stages of the war, would become a mainstay of World War II. Air power also drastically changed the nature of naval operations. Behemoths like the British dreadnoughts became exposed to aerial attacks, as they could not maneuver fast enough to avoid aircraft and their torpedo payload. This led world navies to develop aircraft carriers to defend small task groups of warships against enemy air attacks. After experiencing the gruesome and unexpected kamikaze or divine wind suicide attacks of Japanese Zero pilots, the US Navy took note and upgraded the anti-aircraft arsenal of its ships to fend off enemy attacks. Anti-aircraft guns were usually used against approaching enemy aircraft when friendly air forces were unable to halt their advance. 20 and 40mm guns were standard equipment for World War II vessels, alongside 76mm ones. This type of armament was ideal for subsonic aircraft. But by the mid-1950s, with the rise of jet aircraft that could reach speeds closer to Mach 1, this type of weaponry quickly became less effective. The Navy was then forced to experiment with other weapon systems to counter a new generation of aircraft, including surface-to-air missiles, or SAMs. The Belknap-class cruisers. Aircraft also helped spawn a new generation of American vessels, including the Belknap-class cruisers. These were single-ended guided missile cruisers equipped with missile armament. Built in the early 1960s, they were initially designated as destroyer-leader frigates to evoke the power of the sailing frigates of previous centuries, but a 1975 Navy realignment would reclassify them as guided missile cruisers. The Belknap cruiser displaced 8,000 tons and had an approximate length of 547 feet. The draft was 29 feet and the beam 55 feet. Propulsion consisted of 4 1,200-pound per square inch boilers, 2 shafts, and 2 geared steam turbines that generated 85,000 horsepower. This gave the missile cruiser a maximum speed of 32 knots. When commissioned, the Belknap cruiser was equipped with a main armament of a 5-inch 54 caliber Mark 42 caliber gun and a twin-rail Convair Rim 2 Terrier SAM. The Terrier was one of the first surface-to-air missiles employed by the U.S. Navy and would be upgraded as years passed. It had a beam-riding system with an approximate range of 10 nautical miles at a speed of Mach 1.8. The latest version would achieve a range of 40 nautical miles at speeds of Mach 3. The cruiser also included a mod for the missile launcher, capable of launching anti-submarine ammunition, and secondary armament consisting of 2 twin 76mm guns against subsonic aircraft. By the 1980s, the Terrier missiles and 76mm guns would be replaced by Rim 67 missiles and Harpoon surface-to-surface missile launchers. Honoring a fearless seaman. With the escalation of the conflict in Eastern Asia, the United States government prepared to send American personnel to defend Vietnam from communist expansion. And after the Gulf of Tonkin incident in 1964, there was no doubt that the United States military would forcefully react. A year later, in 1965, U.S. Marines and Army personnel stormed the beaches of Vietnam to begin the offensive against the North Vietnamese and the Viet Cong. The U.S. Navy was ordered to patrol the waters of Vietnam in case the Soviets or Chinese dared to support its communist allies. During this time, a Belknap-class guided missile cruiser would sail directly into the thick of the Vietnam War and square off against the Soviet Navy at sea. Her name was USS Biddle, and her fierce and hard-headed crew always kept the fighting spirit of the ship's namesake. Launched in July of 1965 at Bath Iron Works in Maine, this cruiser was the last of 9 Belknap frigates built by the Navy. It was also the 4th ship in its fleet to bear the name of Continental Navy Captain Nicholas Biddle. When the American Revolutionary War broke out, Biddle was 25 and had already served in the Royal Navy. As a seasoned veteran, he had even participated in Horatio Nelson's Arctic expedition. By 1775, the Continental Congress issued Biddle a captain's commission, and his crew seized several British vessels full of supplies and took over the 32-gun frigate Randolph. 3 years later, Biddle attempted to break the British blockade and took the fight against the ominous HMS Yarmouth, a ship with twice its firepower. But Randolph's magazines exploded, and like a true captain, Biddle decided to go down with the ship. The last ship-to-aircraft gun kill. The call sign of USS Biddle was Hard Charger. As the Vietnam War raged on, the ship completed its trials and was commissioned as DLG-34 in January of 1967. On the ship's first birthday, January 21, 1968, the frigate set sail for the Gulf of Tonkin. Then, after entering Da Nang in South Vietnam, Biddle left for a Positive Identification Radar Advisory Zone Station, or PIRAZ. PIRAZ duty consisted of serving as a Sea Air Rescue, or SAR vessel, and as an anti-air warfare picket. It completed its first tour of duty in July of 1968. 4 years later, on the night of July 9, 1972, Biddle was stationed in the Gulf of Tonkin to assist in guiding airstrikes and defend vessels from increasing enemy activity of Soviet MiG aircraft. In addition, Biddle had just relieved other Navy vessels engaged in the Battle of Dong Hoi, where a squadron of North Vietnamese aircraft had attacked them. As the night covered the landscape, officers on watch duty monitored an American air patrol escorting 2 damaged A-6 intruders when 5 MiGs suddenly popped up from the dark. Although the crew had already spotted MiGs the days before, the enemy always broke formation and headed back to the mainland before engaging the American ships. However, this time was different. The MiGs kept formation and raced towards Biddle at about 500 knots. The crewmen began to shout as they rushed to their battle stations, quote, "Bandits, bandits." While the Terrier missiles were being prepared, Biddle commenced evasive maneuvers at 25 knots. And as the 5 MiGs approached, the Terriers were fired. The missiles lit up the sky and headed towards their targets. 1 aircraft went down, and 2 MiGs quickly turned and flew away. The remaining 2 fighters increased their speed and headed towards Biddle to drop their ordnance, but one of them suddenly crashed into the water. It's believed that it was shot down by the ship's anti-aircraft guns, which would make it the last manually operated gun kill in U.S. naval history. Meanwhile, the other MiG turned tail and quickly disappeared on the horizon. Biddle had successfully accomplished its purpose. A dangerous prank. After the Vietnam War ended, Biddle was sent to the Mediterranean and the Black Sea for special assignments to keep the Soviets at bay during the Cold War. One day, during a routine patrol, Biddle spotted a Soviet task force lined up to be refueled by a support ship. The crew then decided to prank the Soviets, and Biddle steered into the refueling line. As the Americans expected, the communists were focused on refueling and did not notice the trespasser. When Biddle's turn came, a Russian worker asked a crewman by radio how much fuel they needed. The man responded in Russian, saying, quote, "Just a token amount." The Russian then asked what ship he was in, and the American sailor solemnly responded, quote, "United States Navy battlecruiser Biddle." The radio went completely silent, and moments later, all Soviet vessels lit up and scattered in every direction while their crews raced to their battle stations. The Russians feared the Americans were planning something, but it was merely a provocation. After the Soviet warships disappeared, Biddle exchanged food and other items with the oil tanker and continued its mission. By 1981, Biddle was involved in the Gulf of Sidra incident, in which it defied Colonel Muammar Gaddafi's alleged sovereignty of the region. And Biddle would also see action during Operation Desert Shield and Desert Storm in 1990. The ship ultimately served in the Navy for 26 years, 10 months, and 9 days, and was decommissioned on November 30th, 1993. Its indomitable spirit always honored Biddle, the American hero. Thank you for watching our video. Please like and subscribe to our Dark Documentaries channels to watch more historical content. And let us know in the comments below what you think of the achievements of USS Biddle.